She stopped wanting to be close to me, and after months of arguments about intimacy, I noticed her distance hiding something I couldn't ignore. I've been with my fiancée for 6 years, and lately, something has shifted in a way I can't ignore. It's not a tiny, fixable thing. It feels like an invisible wall has grown between us, one I can't climb over or talk down. We barely touch anymore. Not the playful nudges, not the hand-holding, not even the casual brush of her fingers against mine when we pass in the hallway. The closeness that used to feel natural, comforting, even reassuring. It's gone. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she's stressed, I told myself. Maybe she's just tired from work, or something else is going on. But week after week, the small signs accumulated. The absence of touch wasn't just physical. It was emotional, a subtle but constant rejection. I start noticing the little things everywhere. How she doesn't brush my hand when we walk together. How she sits on the edge of the couch instead of next to me. And how even when we're lying in bed, the closeness is mechanical. Like we're roommates instead of partners. That I want to make it clear, it's not about sex for me. It's about feeling connected. Physical touch is one of my love languages, and without it, I feel like a vital part of myself is starving. I crave the warmth of her hand on mine, the comfort of her leaning against me, the intimacy of feeling wanted in a way that doesn't require words. Lately, I feel like I'm invisible in moments that used to be ours. And the worst part is the growing fear that this distance is permanent, that the bond we built over 6 years might be quietly unraveling. That I've tried bringing it up casually, thinking a gentle comment or question could start a conversation. But every time, it spirals into tension. Her eyes flash, her tone sharpens, and before I know it, we're arguing. And then the guilt sets in. Guilt for even noticing, guilt for caring too much, guilt for wanting something she doesn't feel the same way about. I hate that. I hate the thought that I might be selfish or demanding, that my need for closeness could be pushing her away further. Even little reminders of our past intimacy hurt now. I remember how she used to lean into me when we laughed, how our shoulders would touch while cooking, how even a light touch could make me feel like everything was right in the world. And now? Now, I'm hyper-aware of every missed opportunity, every empty space where touch should be, and it amplifies the ache I feel in my chest. I don't know how to start the conversation without it blowing up. I just want her to understand that this isn't about wanting more sex. It's about wanting to feel connected, to feel close again, to feel like we're a team instead of drifting apart. And yet, I'm terrified of how she'll react. I'm terrified of being seen as the problem or as needy. I just want to feel wanted again. Not in a way that's purely physical, but in a way that says, you matter to me. You're mine, and I'm yours. The first time I tried to bring it up, I thought I had the perfect moment. We were cooking dinner together, something we used to love doing. It was one of those small traditions that made our relationship feel solid. Music playing softly in the background, her chopping vegetables while I stirred something on the stove. The atmosphere felt light enough, safe enough that I reached over, brushed my fingers against hers as she handed me the cutting board. She didn't flinch, but she didn't respond either. Just pulled her hand back like it was nothing. My chest tightened, but I pushed past it. Hey, I started, keeping my voice casual. I've noticed we don't, touch as much lately. The knife stopped mid-chop. She sighed, sharp, irritated, like I'd just asked her why the sky is blue. Not this again. My heart sank. I hadn't even said anything yet. Not really. But already it was an argument. I'm not trying to start a fight, I said quickly, raising my hands like I was surrendering. It's just, I miss it. I miss us. Holding hands, sitting close, just being physical in small ways. She dropped the knife on the board with a little too much force and turned to me. So what? You're unhappy now because I'm not hanging off you every second of the day? God, do you realize how needy that sounds? The words hit harder than I expected. Needy. It echoed in my head like an accusation, a flaw she'd just exposed under a spotlight. That I tried to keep my voice calm, steady, but I felt it tremble anyway. It's not about being needy. It's about connection. It's about feeling close to you. She rolled her eyes and went back to chopping. You always make everything about feelings. Not everything has to be this big emotional crisis. I fell silent after that. What else could I say? I didn't want to ruin the night. But inside, the silence was screaming. The thing is, when someone dismisses the one need you're desperate to express, It's not just rejection of the need, it feels like rejection of you. Later, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling, my back to her, listening to her breathe steadily like nothing was wrong. I wanted to reach out, to put my arm around her waist, to pull her close the way I used to. But my arm felt heavy, paralyzed. Because what if she just moved away? What if she sighed again? The fear of rejection kept me frozen. I realized then that I was already beginning to shrink myself, choosing silence over honesty, distance over the risk of conflict. And that scared me more than the lack of intimacy itself. Because silence is the slowest poison a relationship can drink, and I was swallowing it one night at a time. That it's a strange thing, how quickly silence can become routine. At first, every quiet dinner felt like a warning bell, like something was breaking and I needed to fix it. But after a while, it just settled in. We'd sit across from each other, scrolling on our phones, eating without words, like two strangers who just happened to share a kitchen. There was a time when she used to tell me every detail of her day. What her coworker said, the weird commercial she saw, some new recipe she wanted to try. I used to laugh at how much she talked. Now I would have given anything to hear her ramble on again. Instead, I'd get short answers. Work was fine. I'm tired. I don't feel like it. That last one haunted me. She didn't feel like it, but I never even knew what it meant anymore. Talking, touching, being together, me? Nights in bed were the worst. I'd lie there, staring at the wall, while she scrolled on her phone until she eventually rolled over and went to sleep. No kiss, no goodnight, just the glow of the screen fading as she drifted off. And I'd stay awake, fighting this ache in my chest that felt bigger every single night. The worst part was how normal it started to feel. I'd stopped reaching for her, stopped asking if she wanted to watch something together, stopped even expecting her to look at me the way she used to. Because if you expect nothing, you can't be disappointed, right? At least, that's what I told myself. But deep down, I hated the person I was becoming. I used to be confident. I used to laugh loud, make stupid jokes, steal kisses when she least expected it. Now I felt like some hollow version of myself, walking on eggshells around the woman I was supposed to marry. One night, I caught myself rehearsing in the bathroom mirror, actually practicing how to bring it up without sounding needy or emotional. I stared at my own reflection, whispering lines like, "I just want to feel close again," and immediately heard her dismissive sigh in my head. The way she always cut me down before I could finish. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't just afraid of rejection. I was afraid that maybe she didn't care anymore. That maybe the silence wasn't an accident or a phase. Maybe this was her way of pulling away for good. But how do you ask someone if they're slowly falling out of love with you? I don't know what pushed me over the edge that night. Maybe it was the way she brushed past me in the hallway without even looking up. Maybe it was the half-hearted "yeah, whatever" when I asked if she wanted to watch a movie together. Or maybe it was just the silence piling up so high that it finally crushed me. Either way, I snapped. She was in bed, scrolling through her phone, when I sat down beside her and said, "We need to talk." She sighed immediately, the kind of sigh that says she's already tired of me before I've even started. Not this again. But I didn't back down this time. My voice cracked as I said, "Yes, this again. Because nothing is changing. Because I feel like I don't even exist to you anymore. You won't touch me. You barely talk to me. And I'm just supposed to pretend this is normal?" She lowered her phone slowly, giving me that blank look she always does when she doesn't want to deal with something. "Why do you always make everything about sex?" The words cut through me like glass. "It's not just about sex," I snapped back, louder than I meant to. "It's about closeness. It's about feeling like you even want me around. Do you even care about me anymore? Because I'm starting to think you don't." Her eyes flashed. Anger, maybe guilt, I couldn't tell. "Of course I care about you. But you don't get it. I'm tired all the time. Work drains me. I don't have the energy for all your needs." That word, needs, landed like an insult. Like I was some burden, some nuisance she had to put up with. I shook my head. My voice broke. "I'm not asking for the world. I'm asking for a hug. For you to look at me like you used to. For one night where I don't feel like a stranger sleeping next to you." And then she said it. The sentence I'll never forget. "Maybe I just don't have it in me anymore. Maybe this is who I am now. If you can't handle that, maybe we're not as compatible as you think." The silence after that was deafening. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like the whole room could hear it. She just turned back to her phone, like the conversation was already over, like she'd dropped a bomb and decided to walk away from the wreckage that I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and beg her to fight for us. But instead, I just sat there, staring at the floor, realizing for the first time that maybe she wasn't losing interest. Maybe she had already lost it and was too afraid or too indifferent to admit it. And that thought was worse than any argument. The morning after that fight, everything felt heavier. She barely said a word to me while getting ready for work. The clinking of her coffee mug, the zipper of her bag, the shuffle of her shoes. It was like all the noise in the room came from her actions and none from her voice. I tried to say "have a good day" when she walked out the door, but all I got back was a distracted "MHM." It was the kind of silence that doesn't just sit in a room, it seeps into you. Over the next few days, nothing improved. If anything, things got worse. Dinner together became just us sitting at the same table, eating in silence while she scrolled through her phone. The only time she looked at me was if I forgot to pass the salt. I started noticing little things, too. Like how she angled her body away from me on the couch. How she pulled her legs closer when I accidentally brushed against her. How she suddenly started going to bed earlier, always too tired when I came in later. The bed, God, the bed became the loneliest place in the world. We used to fall asleep tangled up together, even when we were mad at each other. But now, there was a gulf of space between us, like an invisible wall had been built overnight. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, feeling her steady breathing beside me, and wonder how she could be so close yet feel 1,000 miles away. I tried again, softly this time. "Hey, can we just cuddle tonight? No pressure, nothing more." She rolled over, facing away from me. "I'm tired. Please, just stop bringing this up." That "stop bringing this up" echoed in my head all night. Because how do you stop bringing up the thing that's tearing you apart? Even outside the bedroom, the cold distance followed us. In the car, she turned up the music so we didn't have to talk. On weekends, she found excuses to be busy: errands, cleaning, calls with her family. We were living together, but it felt like we were just two strangers sharing rent. And the worst part? I started doubting myself. Maybe I really was asking for too much. Maybe I really was the problem, the needy one. I found myself rehearsing conversations in my head, begging for some kind of connection without sounding desperate. But no matter how carefully I tried to phrase it, the result was always the same: her sigh, her annoyance. Her "not this again." That phrase had become our marriage bed, our dinner table, our weekends. Not this again. And in the middle of all that coldness, one terrifying thought started growing inside me. What if this wasn't temporary? What if this was forever? I didn't realize how much the silence had consumed me until I caught myself Googling. What does it mean when your partner stops being intimate? At 3 in the morning, the search results were endless. Articles about mismatched libidos, emotional disconnects, affairs, stress, hormones. Some forums said, "It's normal, just a phase." Others said, "This is the beginning of the end." I read them all, scrolling through strangers' confessions like they held the map to my own relationship. Each story felt like a possible reflection of my life. Some gave me hope. We went through this, and we worked it out. Others hit me like a gut punch. I ignored the signs, and she was cheating. The word cheating burned itself into my brain. I didn't want to believe that, not about her. But the distance, the rejection, the way she seemed to avoid even looking at me, it planted seeds of doubt I couldn't shake. I even posted anonymously once. Wrote out everything. How we'd been together for 6 years, how intimacy used to come naturally, how now it felt like I was begging for scraps of affection. The replies poured in. Some people told me to be patient, that maybe she was going through something she hadn't shared. Others said I needed to sit her down, be brutally honest, and demand clarity. A few told me to prepare myself for the worst. That night, I stared at my phone long after reading those comments, feeling both validated and terrified. At IT work, I couldn't focus. I'd zone out in meetings, my mind replaying the same conversations over and over. On my lunch breaks, I'd scroll through relationship advice subreddits, desperate for someone to tell me exactly what to do. I even thought about therapy. Not just for us, but for myself. Maybe I was broken. Maybe I was too clingy, too needy, too obsessed with touch. Maybe she was right to be annoyed every time I brought it up. But then, I'd remember the nights we used to laugh until we cried. The mornings she used to curl up against me before I even woke up. That woman existed. She was real. She was mine. And I couldn't accept that she was just. Gone. Point. One evening, I came home to find her on the couch, scrolling her phone with that tired look on her face. I opened my mouth to ask, "Can we talk?" But the fear of another sigh, another "not this again," froze me. Instead, I went to the kitchen, poured myself a drink, and sat alone at the table. The distance was no longer just physical. It was emotional, spiritual, suffocating, and I realized something that made my chest tighten. I wasn't just searching for answers online anymore. I was searching for a lifeline. Because if something didn't change soon, I wasn't sure how much longer I could hold on. That I had rehearsed the conversation in my head 1,000 times on my commute to work, in the shower, even in bed while she slept beside me, facing the wall. Every version ended with her finally opening up, finally letting me in, but reality was never that clean. That night, I made myself sit down on the couch beside her. She was scrolling on her phone, half smiling at something on the screen, while my heart was pounding so loud I swore she could hear it. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. She sighed, already a bad sign, and set her phone down slowly. "About what?" The lump in my throat nearly swallowed me, but I forced the words out. "About us. About how things have been. I feel like you don't want me anymore." Her eyes flicked toward me, then away, and I caught that familiar wall going up. "We've been over this," she muttered. "You always bring this up. Because it matters to me." I shot back, my frustration slipping through. "It's not just about sex. It's about feeling close to you. Lately, I feel like I'm living with a roommate, not my fiancé." She crossed her arms. Defensive. "I'm tired, okay? Work is draining me. Life is stressful. I don't have the energy to perform every time you feel insecure." That word, perform, stabbed me in the chest. Like my need for closeness was some kind of obligation, a chore to be checked off. "I'm not asking for a performance," I said quietly. "I'm asking for intimacy. For you. For us. Do you even want this relationship anymore?" Her silence lasted only a few seconds, but it felt like hours. Then she stood up, shaking her head. "This is exactly why I don't want to talk about it. Every time, you twist it into me not loving you. I can't do this right now." And just like that, she walked into the bedroom, shutting the door behind her. I sat there, staring at the empty space she left, my fists clenched against my knees. The whole conversation had slipped through my fingers like smoke. Instead of clarity, I was left with even more questions. Did she really mean what she said? Or was it just an excuse to avoid telling me the truth? Was I pushing too hard? Or was I not pushing hard enough? One thing was certain. The wall between us was higher than ever. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I had the strength to climb it anymore. That night, lying alone in bed, I stared at the ceiling while she slept, turned away from me. Her back a cold wall I couldn't penetrate. I should have been exhausted, but my brain refused to quiet down. Instead, it churned with thoughts I didn't want to have. For months I'd been telling myself stories to explain the distance. She's stressed. She's tired. She'll come around. But now, the more I replayed her words, the less I believed them. Perform. That word echoed in my skull like a bell. Did she really see intimacy with me as just another chore? Or was there something else, someone else, that she was saving her energy for? I hated myself for even thinking it, but once the thought slipped in, it wouldn't leave. What if her lack of interest wasn't about stress? What if it was about desire, and she just didn't feel it for me anymore? The idea of her giving her smile, her laughter, her touch to someone else twisted my stomach into knots. I pictured her at work, texting on her phone, that small grin she gets when something amuses her. Was that grin for me anymore? Or was it for another man? I shook my head, trying to push the thought away, but the seed had been planted. Every little detail from the last few months suddenly looked different under that light. The late nights at the office, the quick screen flips when I walked into the room, the way she always seemed distracted elsewhere. My rational side told me I was being paranoid, that I was projecting my own insecurities onto her. But the other side, the darker, louder side, whispered, "Maybe you're not paranoid at all. Maybe you're finally seeing the truth." And then came the most painful thought of all, that if she didn't want me anymore, if she was truly pulling away, why was I still fighting so hard to hold on to her? I closed my eyes, listening to her steady breathing beside me, and I couldn't tell if I felt more love or resentment in that moment. The line between the two was blurring fast. One thing was becoming clear. I couldn't live in this uncertainty forever that I needed answers, even if they destroyed me. The next few days, I couldn't help but notice things I'd either ignored before or convinced myself were normal. Now, every little crack in our life together looked like a flashing red signal. Her phone, for instance. It used to sit on the counter, face up, while she cooked or watched TV. Now, it was glued to her side like a second skin. When a notification buzzed, she'd pick it up instantly, tilting the screen away from me. If I asked casually who it was, she'd mumble work or a friend and change the subject. Then there were the extra hours at her job. She'd always been dedicated, but lately she came home late too, sometimes 3 times a week. No call ahead, no text, just a breezy explanation once she walked in the door, smelling faintly of perfume I didn't recognize. Point one evening, she came home laughing at something on her phone. She didn't even notice me sitting at the kitchen table. When she finally did, she quickly pocketed her phone, her smile vanishing like it had never been there. I asked what was so funny. She said, flatly, just a meme from a coworker. But I knew her laugh. That wasn't a meme laugh. That was a real laugh. The kind she hadn't shared with me in weeks. I started catching other details, too. A new lingerie set tucked in the back of her drawer, tags still on. Except I'd never seen her wear it. Not for me, at least. She'd bought new perfume, too. Something floral and sharp that lingered in the air long after she walked by. At night, I'd reach for her, and she'd roll away. But her phone? That she clutched under her pillow like it was a lifeline. The more I noticed, the more I questioned myself. Was I connecting dots that didn't exist? Or was I finally seeing the ugly truth I'd been avoiding? My chest ached constantly, the weight of doubt pressing down on me. I hated what I was becoming, suspicious, paranoid, half mad with jealousy. But every sign pointed in the same direction, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was happening, something she wasn't telling me, and deep down, I knew. I was about to find out whether my worst fears were real. It started small, almost accidental. One evening, as she rushed past me to put her phone on the charger in the bedroom, I said casually, "Who's been keeping you so busy lately?" She froze just a second too long before answering. "Work. I told you." Then she gave me a look like I was being unreasonable. That moment planted a seed I couldn't shake. The seed grew fast. Soon, I was no longer asking in passing. I was pressing. "Why do you come home so late? Who were you laughing with on the phone? Why can't you just look at me when I ask you a simple question?" Her answers were clipped, defensive. "Why are you suddenly interrogating me?" She snapped one night. "Do you not trust me anymore?" I wanted to say yes, I don't. But the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I mumbled something about just missing her. That was the truth, after all. I missed her, even while she was sitting 5 feet away. I missed the closeness, the easy way we used to talk, the comfort of knowing she wanted to be with me as much as I wanted to be with her. But the more I asked, the more walls she built between us. Conversations that used to flow effortlessly now turned into battles of silence. She'd roll her eyes, sigh, tell me I was being dramatic. Point one night, I tried again, more gently this time. "Look, I don't want to fight. I feel like you're pulling away, and it's hurting me. Can you at least tell me what's going on?" Her response cut like glass. "You're always making it about you. You think you're the only one who's unhappy? Maybe I'm tired of being smothered, tired of your constant need for attention." I sat there stunned, like she'd slapped me. This was the first time she'd said it out loud, that my need for closeness wasn't just a mismatch. It was a burden to her. The silence after her words was unbearable. She went to bed, leaving me at the kitchen table, staring into the half-empty glass of whiskey in front of me. That night, I realized something terrifying. The cracks between us weren't just there, they were widening, deepening into a canyon I wasn't sure we could cross. There's always that one night you remember as the night everything changed. For me, it came after another pointless argument, if you could even call it that. I asked her where she had been after work. She snapped, accused me of being controlling, and stormed off to the bedroom, slamming the door. I sat on the couch in the dark, my hands shaking, my chest tight. It wasn't just about sex anymore, or hugs, or missing the way her head used to fit on my shoulder. It was about trust, about the constant feeling that something was being kept from me, that I was being pushed further and further out of her life. And then, in a moment of weakness, or maybe clarity, I whispered to myself, "I can't do this anymore." The words hung in the air, shocking even me. But once said, I couldn't take them back. They were true. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through our old photos. 6 years of memories, vacations, birthdays, the night I proposed. In every picture, we looked happy. I looked happy. But when had that happiness ended? Was it gradual, like sand slipping through your fingers, or did it vanish in one sharp cut I didn't notice at the time? I thought about the future we had planned: marriage, kids, a house filled with laughter. Suddenly, it felt like those dreams belonged to another couple, not us. Not me and this woman who now looked at me like I was a nuisance. That night, something snapped. I realized I couldn't just wait for her to explain, couldn't keep begging for scraps of affection. If she wouldn't talk to me, then I needed to find out for myself what was really going on. I hated myself for even considering it, but I couldn't fight the pull. Curiosity, suspicion, desperation. It was all tangled into one burning need for the truth. I lay in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling, while she slept peacefully. My mind raced. What if she's hiding something? What if the distance isn't about me at all, but about someone else? That was the moment I made a decision. If I couldn't get answers from her, I'd get them another way, even if it broke me. The next morning, I couldn't just sit there and pretend nothing was wrong. Every instinct in me screamed that I needed proof, something concrete to either confirm or silence the gnawing doubts inside me. I started small. Casual glances at her phone when she left it unattended. I told myself I wasn't snooping. I was observing. But the guilt hit me instantly. This isn't me. I'm crossing a line. Yet my need for answers overpowered my morality. Her social media was another battlefield. Likes, comments, tags. I studied them like a detective reading clues in a crime scene. Who was she talking to? Who made her laugh enough to post a smiling selfie? Each detail fed my anxiety and paranoia. I remembered the small things I'd brushed off before. The perfume I didn't recognize, the new lipstick, the extra hours at work. Alone in my head, they formed a pattern, painting a picture I didn't want to see, but couldn't ignore. I even drove past her work-late spots, pretending to run errands. Nothing concrete yet, just shadows of suspicion. Every friendly interaction she had with coworkers seemed loaded, every smile potentially hiding secrets. My emotions oscillated between dread and determination. If she's cheating, I need to know. I can't live in this limbo anymore. But the fear, the fear was paralyzing. What if I found something? What if the truth shattered the life I had worked so hard to build? Still, the pull for clarity was irresistible. Every glance at her, every brief touch that ended abruptly, every sigh in the middle of our conversations, they all whispered, "Look deeper." Don't ignore it. By nightfall, I was exhausted, mentally and emotionally. But even as I fell asleep on the couch, my mind refused to rest. Tomorrow, I'll find something. I have to, because I knew, deep down, that living with uncertainty was worse than whatever truth awaited me. It wasn't supposed to happen that night. I hadn't planned on looking through her messages while she was asleep, but curiosity and desperation collided, making my hands act before my brain could stop them. The screen lit up, and my heart hammered in my chest. There, in the depths of her chat app, were conversations that froze me in place. Flirty texts, inside jokes I didn't understand, secret plans she'd made without me knowing. Each message felt like a dagger twisting deeper. I couldn't breathe. My mind screamed to close it, to ignore it, but my eyes were glued. There was no denying it anymore. She had been emotionally invested in someone else, someone not me. The world around me tilted. The living room, the couch, the familiar hum of the refrigerator, they all became alien. My hands shook as I scrolled further, each line of text tearing down the life I thought I knew. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at her sleeping form in the bedroom, knowing she had no idea what I had discovered. Part of me wanted to wake her up and demand an explanation immediately, but another part, the part that had been bruised for months, knew I needed time to process, to even breathe before confronting this reality. And yet, amid the pain, a strange clarity settled in. For months, I had been grappling with doubts, fears, and sleepless nights. Now, I had the answer. Brutal, ugly, undeniable, but an answer nonetheless. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. But alongside the hurt, there was something else, a strange, terrifying relief. I finally knew. And with that knowledge, I could start deciding what I would do next, with our relationship, with my trust, and with my own heart. The next evening, I forced myself to face her. I could feel every nerve in my body on fire, my stomach a twisted knot of anger, fear, and heartbreak. She was in the kitchen, casually making tea, her hair falling over one shoulder. She looked up as I entered, smiling faintly. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to remain steady. "We need to talk," I said, the words flat, calm, but deadly serious. She paused. That tiny hesitation told me she sensed what was coming. "About what?" she asked cautiously. I took a deep breath, the words breaking free like a dam. "I know about him. About the texts. About your involvement with someone else." Her eyes widened, just slightly, before narrowing. She started, but I cut her off. "I trusted you. I loved you. And for months, I've been living in doubt, in confusion, wondering if it was me. I tried to understand, tried to wait, tried to forgive. But now I know the truth." She sank onto a chair, silent. I could see the guilt flicker across her face, but it didn't matter anymore. "I can't live like this," I continued. "I can't be in a relationship where I'm not enough, where the person I love is giving herself to someone else emotionally. I have to decide what's best for me, for my heart, and for our family, eventually, for my sanity." Tears pricked my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. The truth was harsh, but it gave me clarity. "I'm leaving," I said softly but firmly. "I need to rebuild myself, find peace, and figure out what kind of future I want. One where I'm respected and loved the way I deserve." She tried to speak again, to plead, to explain, but I shook my head. There were no explanations that could erase the months of betrayal and doubt that I walked out of that room, each step heavy, but with a strange sense of liberation. Pain mixed with resolve, heartbreak with determination. The life I had imagined with her was gone, shattered by lies. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. For the first time, I knew that ending one chapter didn't mean the story was over. It meant I had the chance to write the next one on my terms.